Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live on a cruise ship? How about owning your own cruise ship? Well, get ready to meet our next guest because that is exactly Chris Willson's reality. Welcome to Season 4 of Living at Sea. This is a 3-part series where we will be learning the fascinating details of living and owning a cruise ship, along with the monumentous task of renovating and restoring Aurora. Aurora is a cruise liner that when she came into Chris Willson's ownership, she needed a bit of TLC, and that's an understatement. We will show you throughout each episode how Chris bought a cruise ship, his plans for restoring her, and the restoration process and progress, and so much more. Coming from Stockton, California on the California Delta, we couldn't be more excited to share Chris and Aurora's story and the journey and newfound life they share together. Hello friends, and thank you so much for joining. Today's video is like no other. We're really excited because we're sitting on board what used to be a cruise ship. Here we have Chris. Thank you so much for joining. I'm really excited to be aboard the Aurora. Chris, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself here, and kind of give us the backstory of how this all came about.
Boy, it's a long story, but I'll try to shrink it into a couple of small segments here. I lived in Santa Cruz, California, and I worked a high-tech job. And part of the high-tech job that I was working on was doing some of the development for some of the first virtual tours. I really wanted to do a virtual tour of this ship because I thought it was kind of an amazing old derelict ship rotting away out on the Delta, and really, who doesn't want to go, go photo an old derelict ship? It just, so I made arrangements with the owner to come on board, and I did my virtual tour, but I started to kind of look around, and I could see the light through the trees, but I still wasn't really that interested in acquiring, an old cruise ship, especially one that needed so much work. So I went home. I started editing my tour, trying to get it ready to, put online. But I needed some backstory. I knew nothing about the boat. On the side of it, it said Faithful. And I couldn't find anything online about any ship named Faithful.
Right.
So I kept digging, and over time I found the original name of the ship, and then I found more information that it was the first ship that Germany was allowed to build after World War II. It was the test platform for Mercedes Maybach diesel electric, and it had quite a bit of history, but I wouldn't come to know a lot of the history until later on. But that was enough. That was, I had to investigate why was this ship rotting away out in the Delta.
Right.
So I made arrangements with the owner, and I kept visiting the ship. And over time, I kind of just pulled the trigger on it. I decided I needed to do something, and here we are today. So
there was such a love affair with really how you had to come back and visit, and you would get a little more of the knowledge and the history, and kind of roped you into all of it. So you haven't been interested in ships your whole life, or perhaps you were in the Navy or something, so it just later in life you decided this is really cool and it sparked an interest and a hobby?
Well, parts of that are true. I was never in the Navy. I don't think I really had any relatives that I know of that were in the Navy. But I've always been good at working with my hands and rebuilding things, and I used to have a job working at a guitar shop where I did, I repaired acoustic and electric guitars, and I would do the custom inlays, the woodwork, and I was good at what I did, and this kind of translated, my renovation of, former houses, and I've done houses and apartments and warehouses. So I had a pretty good knowledge of construction, and I'm generally good at picking up things fairly easily. Welding kind of came natural to me, and
Jack of all trades with that.
Yeah, woodwork comes naturally to me, and it all kind of fell into place. When you're looking at something and it looks terrible, you're looking at, a lot of people look at it like, oh man, I got to throw this away or get rid of it or sell it. I look at it like, I can fix that. I can make that beautiful again.
Yeah, and that's really a gift, because not everyone, including myself, it's really hard to wrap your head around something and see like the end vision and the end project and the potential that something could have. It's hard to do. It's such a commitment to, restoring even just a chair or, whatever have you. And which also reminds me of the chairs that we're sitting in. These have a story, don't they?
Yeah, actually, Peter Canego, he's a ship historian, and he visits Alang, India, and he kind of visits all the old ships that are being scrapped out, and he tries to save as much remembrance off of these ships as possible. And these ships were off the former Island Princess, and Peter had donated to this ship quite a bit of the furniture from the Island Princess, which was the ship that the Love Boat was filmed on. That was the primary ship that the Love Boat was filmed on. That and the Pacific Princess.
So previously, have you been on a cruise or?
No, I didn't have really any boat experience before this. And
That's incredible.
I've always wanted to.
I thought you were going to tell me a very different story.
Yeah, no, not even a little boat, really. I mean, I think I had like a 12-foot dinghy when I was a kid that we used to go out on the lake with, but I don't know if that qualifies.
Mm-hmm.
This thing, I've always wanted to go on a cruise to see what the big ships are like.
Right.
All I've done was seen pictures, but one of these days, when the industry comes back into play, if it's in the cards, then I'll have to take a cruise. I'd love to.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting also just for your perspective because of the rich history that this ship has, and then kind of in comparison. And I think it would be really, really interesting for you to pick a ship in particular, like to not be on a mega ship for your first sailing. And, that would just be, I think you would have a really fun time on an older ship as well. Oh, I'm like excited for you just because that would be really, really fun to explore.
If I have my choice, of course it would be an older ship, but I see a lot of the artwork and a lot of the craftsmanship that they put into the interiors of the new ships. Mm-hmm. And, some of it, I look at it and I go, that's a little bit too commercial. It's no longer teak rails, but it's like some teak plastic wrapped around an aluminum rail. I don't like that so much, but I mean, to see some of the other interior craftsmanship, I mean, it's nothing less than amazing. And then just to watch that stuff get scrapped out later, it drives me crazy.
Yeah, and particularly with all the recent news of cruise ships that have been scrapped and made their way over to India, as you had described earlier. It's even more with the pandemic, and it's I know we were talking earlier offline how it kind of like pulls at your heartstrings to hear about that, right?
Oh yeah.
It's difficult. But I'm curious to know, what is one thing that when you tell people you own a ship, what is one thing that people are always kind of like surprised to learn about, or, opening that world of this is an alternate style of living? What is the most common question you receive, or just the curiosity of opening Pandora's box here?
Well, I think when you mention to somebody that you own a ship, it's not always quick surprise. They're a little bit stunned. They're like a ship.
What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly. What are you talking about? Because who owns a cruise ship? Nobody does. So
except you.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to tell people and have them know what to think. So when I first came across this ship, I really thought, bragging it up. Oh yeah, I got a ship. We're gonna redo this ship. I thought it was actually something that I was gonna throw out there and get a lot of respect, but the respect isn't having the ship, it's what you do with it. That's what gains you the respect. And what we're doing out here, we're going to restore the whole thing and nothing's going to stop us. That's
definitely a lot of drive and we've taken a tour of it, and it's absolutely incredible to see the vision and the work, and you can feel the pride as well that you have, to all the different projects. It's the energy is exciting with where we're going to go with it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I look forward to each area. You can't look at the whole ship and go, geez, I'm going to restore that whole ship. You got to look at one area, kind of like the area that we're in down below. This area was an absolute nightmare. I mean, it didn't have a ceiling, it didn't have a floor, it didn't have really anything. And then we just completely rebuilt this from the ground up. And then, then it was off to one of the hallways, and then it's going to be off to the entryway, and then it's going to be off to the rear where the grand staircase goes up. So each area, we just look at it like it's a little piece that needs restored, and eventually that puzzle is going to completely come together.
Yeah. So looking back for how long you've owned the ship now, are you ever kind of like surprised that, this has been the path, and that, you're looking at where you are now, living permanently on the ship, fully restoring it? Does it ever kind of surprise you that...
You mean that I've wound up in this situation?
Yeah.
I don't regret anything that I've done. It's been an amazing journey, and I highly recommend it to people who can deal with the politics behind it and are very crafty, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, no regrets at all. It's just been an amazing journey thus far, and I think what's ahead is going to be even better.
So what really is ahead though for Aurora? Do you envision her hosting venues, perhaps have her be part of a museum and a walkthrough, like old World War II ships or things of that sort? What do you really kind of see for her?
Well, over the last couple of years, she's really taken place in the movie world. I think last year, or let's just say in the last 14 months, we've done roughly 6 movies on board.
That's a lot.
We have one scheduled for December, and this one's going to be probably the biggest one yet. But it really attracts a lot of artists at the same time. So the further this ship comes along, the more, I don't know, it gives me more drive to actually keep pushing the restoration into what she's eventually gonna be. But I would love to do like a bed and breakfast, someday. We have an area mapped out to be a 150 seat theater. It's gonna be insane. We're gonna try to do a vintage theater that looks the period.
Yeah.
And then we'll do events and weddings and parties and all that stuff. But
I can see it being like a venue where people have their prom and things like that, where it's really you come and you get dressed up and you have a good time, and definitely is exciting to think about all the different possibilities.
Well, it's got unlimited possibilities. It's just, what do you want to do with it?
Yeah.
And of course, with all ships, I mean, there's the bad and the good. It hasn't been out of the water in a while, but right now she's sitting in the safest place on Earth, which is in fresh, shallow water, and she's a double bottom, so the bottom's still pretty solid on this thing. And one day we'll pull it out of the water and redo the bottom, and either redo it to be seaworthy again, or redo it just to be kind of a floating venue.
So with it being a venue and floating here, it reminds me of the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. So kind of similar as an older ship with renovation and everything like that. Is there some similarities with their restoration, or how the paths, or anything that's kind of similar?
Yeah. They have a really good business plan, and they have a crew that works, relentlessly on bringing more areas back to life aboard. You know, some of the areas down below, of course, need work, and they do it kind of like a shopping mall where they close off an area. And then when that area is finished and ready to open to the public, that's what they do. And I think we're gonna try to copy their model on renovation. And you know, being one of only a few vintage liners left in the United States, I think that this is a rare opportunity to bring like a mini Queen Mary to you know, wherever we end up.
Right. And what I think is really remarkable is you mentioned this is the handiwork and kind of being a handyman and being able to, of course, have the vision for each room and each project of the ship, but the fact that you're able to do so much of the work yourself. So you mentioned that you're skilled at woodworking and welding, and what are these other tasks that you can pretty much do? Electrical, everything? What can't you do? I know you mentioned you do have like a team of volunteers as well and people helping you, but you know, can you do it all?
I can pretty much do everything except for, you know, underwater welding. I won't do that. But you know, anything concerning the ship, electrical, I have a vast knowledge of electrical, and on this ship I've redone quite a bit of it. For probably 25 to 30 years, this ship remained dark with no electrical hooked up to this thing whatsoever.
And look how bright it is now.
And now there's not an area on board that doesn't light up. You know,
goodness.
so I'm kind of happy about that. But we inspected all the wires to make sure that everything was was in, you know, in good condition, and if it wasn't, we replaced it, and we tried to use, you know, all certified, you know, materials. So so the electrical is you know, that's an easy task, but we know just about everything that there is to do. I think even solo, I know if I had 10 more of me, then the ship would move a lot faster. But our volunteers, we have some that are really skilled, and you know, we love them. They're pretty much dedicated to the task, and they come out, and we do big crew parties after we finish areas, and it's just nice to watch the drive behind everything that we do out here for the past couple of years. I'm excited, you know, I'm excited about, you know, one day having everybody on board and actually, you know, and actually falling in love with what we're doing like I have.
Yeah, exactly. It's truly incredible to see. Are you feeling inspired to tackle some restoration projects now? If it means you can live at sea, let me know in the comments down below. That concludes our first episode in this 3-part series. I hope you enjoyed learning from Chris all about Aurora. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, ciao for now.